Welcome to the PredictWind Observations webinar. It's great to have you all here. It's good to see that we've got a good number of people in attendance. My name's Nick Olsen. I've been at PredictWind for about 6 years now, and I'm a sailor. I've sailed all my life, and everything from dinghy sailing through to offshore keelboat sailing. So if sort of a fair bit of experience in all areas there. Our panelist today is Kieran McMaster. She is the head of our support team here at PredictWind. Kieran's a bit of a sailing legend. She has done a couple of Volvo around the world races, and yeah, she's pretty awesome, and should be able to answer any questions that you have today. So yeah, just feel free to answer in the Q&A part there, and Kieran can answer any of those questions. I'll check them as well, but I don't imagine there's much that she won't be able to answer straight away. So just a little bit about PredictWind. Our goal is to provide the best weather data to anyone, anywhere in the world, and keep that simple and easy to use. So anyway, without too much further ado, we'll get straight into the webinar today, which is about observations. So first of all, we'll just go through how to use the new observations features that we've introduced, and so we'll go through that on the PredictWind website, forecast website, and then we'll have a look at the offshore app and how you might use that, the observations in there. So let's crack into it. I'll just go straight into a screen share here. So here we are. We have the apps, the two main, the two PredictWind apps. So here we have the PredictWind app. So you use the PredictWind app when you're in the marina, when you're in Wi-Fi coverage, cell coverage. You know, when you're at home, or you're doing a coastal sail, or you're just going out for a sail for the day. So the PredictWind app has a huge amount of information in it that's readily available at your fingertips. So everything from daily briefing to graphs to tables to wind maps, wave maps, yeah, a whole range of maps. Has all the tools in there. Has the weather routing tools, the departure planning tools, and of course observations and alerts. So you know, you can pick your conditions. So yeah, there's a huge amount of information in the PredictWind app. That's the Wi-Fi based app that we have here. So it's available on a Android or iOS device. So you know, your iPhone or your Android phone or tablet and iPads, and also on the PredictWind forecast website in a web browser. Over here we have the offshore app. So the offshore app is what we use when we're going out of Wi-Fi range. It works differently to the PredictWind app. The offshore app saves all the data for offline, so you can do your download on a satellite or SSB connection or a standard Wi-Fi connection. And then when you go out of Wi-Fi, that information is there for you. It'll connect to nearly any satellite connection, and nearly any SS and SSB as well. So it downloads GRIBs, which is just GRIB is just a format for the weather files, and it does weather routing and departure planning, GMDSS forecasts, satellite imagery, and observations. So yeah, a lot of features in there. GPS tracking, you can see other boats. So yeah, a great piece of software. And again, that's on PC, Mac, iOS and Android. So, you know, use it on your tablets. I do. You know, use it on an iPad, on your phone if as a backup usually, but phones are getting bigger, so that's a bit better. But yeah, bigger screens are better for viewing your weather. So that's why we like the iPad or a laptop. Anyhow, so let's get straight into it. I'll just stop sharing that screen, and we will flick over to a new screen and share that. So you see here, I am in forecast.predictwind.com, and I'm in the tables. I'm at a location where I'm taking one of my kids sailing tomorrow, and so I'm been looking at the forecast there in the tables. They don't start till lunchtime, so we can see the breeze is going to build in. Anyhow, we're here to look at observations, but this is important because I want to look at today and see what's going on. And we can see here we've got, pretty light winds from the south, and later in the day it looks like we're going to see some southeast, but light and variable in the models there. So when it's light conditions, we do see a bit of variability. But really, we'd focus on the wind maps if to compare with our observations. So I can go onto the wind map there, and let's go to the PWG and zoom in. And so that's where they're sailing, but this is Auckland City. And the reason I'm going to do this is it's my backyard, and but also we've got a lot of observations around here that we can talk about, and we have. Let's flick over to the observations and have a look, so we can talk about that a bit more. So we go to observations here, and you can see that the breeze is actually spun right around now into the northeast, and so that's cool. Let's just move this time slider back. Let's go back to 9 o'clock this morning, and you'll see there we've got a southeasterly. I'll just southwesterly. I'll just zoom that in a little bit. So you see these observations here. This is actually the America's Cup course areas are here, and in here, and in here. And so you'll see we've got lots of observation points around them. So we have added a bunch of these observation points in ourselves as part of the to help out the America's Cup teams, and they're all using this data to work from. You'll see over here, this one here is so for instance, this one here, the reason we've got this one here is that when they sail the America's Cup, it'll be in the afternoon, and often we get a breeze coming from this coast over here, a sea breeze coming from this coast over here. We also have another sea breeze coming onto this coast because we're a very narrow landmass there. As you can see through here, she's pretty narrow. Anyway, this west coast one is usually stronger, and it will push through. But having this observation here, and there's this one here, it gives us an indication of this pushing through. Often we'll see the breeze hold up here between the two breezes fighting each other. But this one from the west coast will usually win. So there's a lot going on there. And even when the teams are out sailing, they're using this information at the moment, practicing. They're using this information to cross-reference what the forecast model said and what they saw on the boat. So just a little aside as to what's going on there. So how do we use it? So let's just click on this one here, and you'll see that we've got, so I clicked on the little arrow there, and that has given me a graph for that particular station. I can look at 48 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours. If I want to look short term, I can look at the last hour. And so let's go back to 6 hours, and you'll see there we've been in the south this morning, 180 degrees, and then we've actually spun around here and come right round to the north, just in the last little while there, in the last hour. So yeah, that's a single graph. If I go back to the map, and I can zoom the map and have a look here, and I'll give it another click, and we'll zoom it a bit more, and see I've got these 3 stations here, and I'm showing on the map. So then if I click on graph, I've got the 3 stations, and I can compare the data, what's been happening at those 3 stations. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to be able to say, like if I had an inshore and an offshore observation, to see the difference in the breeze, what's been going on, when they've changed. And again, I can change the time step in the past as to what I'm looking at there. If I go back to the map, I can zoom it out again, and I get a bunch. I've got a bunch of observations there. I can click on the table view, and it shows them all listed out for me. And as you can see, it's a pretty light wind day out there in Auckland today. And yeah, so just another way to view it. I quite like this one. If I'm out sailing, I can just tap on the table and I can sort of see what everything in the area is doing in one view quite easily without having to zoom the map or anything. I can have that set up. So the next thing we have is the ratings. So this is a new feature, and you can see here we've got 3 things that we can do. So I can turn any station off or on, and if I don't like it. So if I didn't think there was good quality data from a particular weather station, I might turn it off. I'll hide it. I don't want to see it on my map. And I also might give it a low rating. So I can click on there on the stars, and I can say, okay, I don't like that one. Give it a 2-star rating. I can save that rating. The next thing I could do is, which isn't enabled yet, but I could add a comment to it. And so that would mean if you came to Auckland and you wanted to go sailing here, you could have a look at the observations, and you could see that some of these lower ranked ones, you could either have just turn them off, or you could say, oh, look, that one's, that's not very good. And you might see that someone's commented on it and said, oh, it's actually, that's in someone's backyard. The data's not very good. Another thing that you might do there is you might say, oh, well, this observations, might be at a beach, and it might be really good only when the breeze is coming onto the shore. In an offshore breeze, that station, the data there might be poor. So just a little note there, you could have a look at that and say, oh, all right, okay, I know, a bit of local knowledge about what's happening here, and which stations are good, which ones aren't. So I'll click back to the map there, and let's zoom out. And you will see here that we have stations all over the ocean. And let's zoom it out a bit more. Oh, what have I done? There we go. And so, yeah, we've got all these stations all around the place here, and there's some of it's pretty unique and pretty cool. So I'll just run through quickly what we've got. So recently we've added the NDBC weather buoys, and so that's a set of weather buoys mainly around the US, but across the oceans. That's done by NOAA in the US, NOAA. And we've added all those buoys in, so that's a large data set, very valuable. It's on the ocean data, which we all like. The other data set that we've added in recently is MADIS, and so MADIS is essentially a collation of data. They're a data collection service essentially, and so they're getting data from NOAA again, and from individuals. So from individual stations are putting weather data in there. And again, that's another big data set. Something that I'm pretty excited about are the SOFAR weather buoys, spotter buoys. And SOFAR are a private company. They have 250 of these buoys floating around the ocean at the moment, primarily in the Pacific at the moment, but they are putting more out in the Atlantic and other places around the world. And early next year, they expect to have that number of buoys up to, spotter buoys up to 500. So it's pretty awesome to have these little, they're a basketball-sized buoy floating around in the ocean and giving us wind data. And so we just click on one of these. I don't know what one that is. And look at that, turns out it is a spot weather buoy, and we can see that, you know, he's been feeding data to us over the last 12 hours. So pretty cool, and it really, you know, unique data set that isn't available elsewhere, and great for if you're doing ocean crossings, because you can compare your forecast to the weather, compare your forecast to what the buoy's giving you, the data the buoy's giving you. So let's so the other data sources are BOM, so Bureau of Meteorology. We added a heap in Australia, and you'll see I'm really zoomed out there, and it looks like there's about 5. But if I zoom in, let's zoom in Australia, and you'll see we get more and more show up. And so, and you see the little sign there at the top says, if I zoom in, I'll see more. And it does, it keeps loading more and more data. So there's actually heaps of them there, and you know, really useful. You know, these coastal ones, if you're sailing down the coast, they can line up with the weather information, and you can see what you've got. So if we just come back to New Zealand, so there's observations like that all around the world. And come back over here. So now that we've talked about sort of how you would use the data, what's that one out there? I don't know what that one is. Anyway, let's zoom in on Auckland. So yeah, so we know how to use the tool, but how do we use the data? So let's bring this back here to where we were. I'm just moving the time slider along the bottom here, and let's move that to 9 o'clock this morning, 9:30. You'll see there we've got a southwesterly here, and then we've got something else over here. We've got 10 knots, and he's more southeast. And so let's flick over to our wind map and go see what's happening, and find out how accurate we are. So let's zoom in. So that's now, and we know from just looking at before that we saw a northeasterly, and so that's what's, and you know, it's a light wind day, and there's a fair bit of variation going on there. But so I'll just zoom in a bit more, and we'll go to the 1K resolution. And yeah, she's a light and variable day. So but let's go back this morning and have a look here. So 9:30. So we've got our observations set at 9:30. We could see on the observations that we had the southwesterly in town here. This is where Auckland City is, and you know, we've got about 6 knots there in the model. That other part that we looked at just before, where we could see, you know, we could see the same breeze over this side, but over here we could see something else. And this, we've got an observation point here. You can see there the model says that we've got 10 knots from the southeast. And I love it when this works out like this, when you're doing a webinar. And if I go back to 9:30 this morning, where are we? There we are, 9:30, 9.7 knots on that observation point. And you can see there that there's probably more west in the model there, I mean in the observations, than what there was in the model. But that's, you know, it is reflecting what's going on pretty well. Oops, didn't mean to zoom that out. Let's zoom back in. There we go. Okay, so and so we're back at now. So it is midday, or just past midday. So we're back at now, and as you can see, we're light, and the observations are there's quite a few of them pointing different ways, and we can flick over to our back to our wind map. and I think the model's actually doing a pretty good job. I mean, it's yeah, she's a light old day out there. Rightio. So that's, I mean, what I'm getting at here is how we use this is we want to match up the observations with our weather model. We can look through the different weather models here, and you can see the PWE is pretty similar. ECMWF, again, pretty similar. Let's have a look at what he had at around 9 o'clock this morning. Yeah, you can see that he was able to, the ECMWF was able to pick up that breeze coming out of here. PWE was getting it as well, and so was the PWG. So the GFS, not quite so much, but the trend was there, but pretty much what I expect to see. I'm a big fan of the PWG in Auckland, do a lot of sailing here. It performs really, really well. Right, so what are we going to look at? Oh yeah, so what we're trying to do there is, yeah, we're matching it up because all the models are saying a pretty similar thing. Today it's not so critical, but on another day when the models might be saying different things, we could match up the observations with the model, and we would be able to see which model was closest to the observations. And then we would go, okay, well, that model's doing the best job now, so it's probably the one that's going to do the best job for the next 6 hours until we, or whatever, until we get the next forecast update, model update. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing that, and we're going to have a look at me again, and I am going to crack into the offshore app, and go in here, screen sharing, just there, PredictWind offshore, share, there we go. So here we have we are in the PredictWind offshore app. So before the webinar, I downloaded some grids and a weather route, and as you can see, we've obviously got a very consistent weather pattern there, because all 4 routes are basically saying the same thing. Looks like we've just got to reach into Fiji there. But what I wanted to show here was, I'll quickly just run through how we would get to there. But what I wanted to show was how we might use the offshore app and have a look at an offshore buoy and see how that matches up with the grid file. So, but to do that, I would click on download over here. I'm going to select my offshore grids because we're going to pretend I'm on a satellite connection. And you'll see here, I've got observations, and I've got that ticked. There's my tick there. I'm going to click on next, and we're going to do, now is for our weather routing, and we're going to click on next. And you'll see here, I've got all my files and I've got my observations ready to download. I've already downloaded this, so we're not going to do that. I'll click on download all, away we go. Just close that. So you'll see here, I've got my weather out, I can play that through. But what we want to do is we want to stay on now, and we want to have a little look at what we've got. Weather-wise, pretty light at the moment. So let's go and have a look at the observations which I downloaded. Okay, and look at that. We have a buoy there, and here's it's a spot. So it's a so far buoy, and I'm just going to move my little green start point there to where he is, and I'm going to flick back over to weather routing, and he says 9.3 knots. And isn't that awesome? Because the grid file says it's going to be 10 knots and it's showing the same direction. So we're pretty confident that our weather models are doing a good job there. Let's have a look at some of it. So I'm on the PWG model, the blue one, and let's have a look at the PWE. He says 8 knots. GFS, yeah, 9 knots. ECMWF, 9 knots. So they're all in agreement, which also lines up with the fact that all my weather routes are going the same way. There's no variation. I haven't got one going off over here. So all the models are saying the same thing. Our observation point, he's sitting there, he's got 9.3 knots, same direction from that southeast direction, and it all matches up. So that's what we're doing with the observations when we're at sea. If we were doing this before we went on a passage, we can have a look at how we can do exactly the same thing. We can look at the we can run our weather routing, we can get the gribs, and we can see what the observations are out at sea, which gives us more, we can see if they line up, and that gives us more confidence in our forecast. So we've just added in another tool there that means that we can have more confidence in our forecast, and so we've got this other tool in the toolbox, and it's really great. I'm looking forward to using it in anger out at sea, and I think it's super cool having the SOFAR wave spotter buoys and the NDBC data. It just makes the PredictWind offering a little bit stronger still, and is way and above what you can get in anything else. So let's have a little flick back to there, and that's how back to our weather out. That's how we would use it. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and I am just going to quickly have a look at the questions. And it looks like Kieran has been doing a great job answering the questions there. So we're going to wrap that up pretty much there. It was a very brief overview, but if you have any questions, please reach out to our support team. They are awesome people, and are there to help you, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. So yeah, thanks very much for joining us, and have a lovely evening or day, depending on where in the world you are. Thanks very much for joining us.